Today we're going to focus on one particular collage artist. His name is Matthias Jung and he lives in Germany, like Boris Schmitz, and he's making art at the moment. He's alive at the moment. He makes a kind of art that I would describe as surreal collage. There are three new pieces of artist vocabulary that we're going to need for this unit of art. You might be familiar with some of them already, but you might not. So this type of art, as I just mentioned, is called surreal. Surreal means really anything that is close to being real, but isn't quite. So you can see that this picture, which is one that we looked at the other day, has everything in it is real, but it's put together in a way that makes it not real anymore. So that's surreal. You might even say that the situation we're in at the moment is surreal because we're doing all our normal things. It's just happening in a completely different way. For example, you're doing your learning, but it's at home. That might be surreal. We've got two parts, a background, which is the clouds and the sky and the sea, and then the foreground is the buildings in front. We're going to be talking about background and foreground and making these two parts separately. First of all, we're going to look at the backgrounds. We're going to look at lots of different pieces of Matthias Jung's work, but I only want you to focus on the background of his work. This time we have mountains and clouds, so it's very white with bits of dark black and grey, but it's still quite pale. This time we've got grass and some hills and clouds and also a lighthouse in the distance. Now we've got the sea as well as a slightly cloudy sky, but it's a lot less white, this background. There's a lot more blue coming through. This time we've got a really dark brown river with some really green trees and then a mountain in the distance and also some boats and I think probably some people on the boats, so this one's a little bit different. This piece of art just has the sky as the background. I really like the title of this piece of art. You might have noticed the title underneath as we've been going through, and Matthias Jung has chosen some really interesting and unusual titles for his pieces of work. This one is called Cloud Gardener, Did You Fall in Love? And then this picture has got green fields in the background and then a really dark sky. Maybe there's going to be a storm or something like that.
So I've got everything that I need to make my collage today. Today we're only going to be designing and cutting out our collage pieces. Tomorrow we're going to think really carefully about arranging them and sticking them down. So I've got this blank piece of paper for my background. It's a little bit bent in some places because it's an old piece of paper. I don't have very much plain paper at home, but that's okay because I'm going to be sticking things over the top of it. So I've got my scissors and pencil and some colouring pencils too. And then I've got lots of things that I've collected to make my foreground. So I've got a few newspapers that have come through my door, but not very much really. I've got some tissue paper that I've saved from presents. I've got some bubble wrap and some packaging that's come with deliveries. I've got some old Christmas cards that I found that I might be able to use a bit of, and I've got another piece of plain paper for if I want to draw any of my buildings. So we're going to start with the background. So I don't have a printer and I don't have any backgrounds in my newspapers and magazines, so I'm going to be drawing mine. But if you can find a background in a newspaper that you really like, then use that. If you would prefer to find one that you really like on the internet and you can print it out at home, then you can use that too. but I can't do either of those, so I'm going to draw mine. So I'm starting off with my pencil. Now, when I looked at Matthias Jung's pictures, I really liked the mountain ones. Mountains are some of my favourite places to go, so I'm going to draw myself some mountains.
So now we're going to look at foregrounds, and we're going to look at these foregrounds first and then make some of our own. Now remember, the foreground is anything that is in the front and in the main focus of the picture. So for all of these pieces of art, the foreground is some kind of building collage. This one's got buildings stacked on top of each other in kind of a pyramid shape, and it's also got some triangles coming off the bottom. I wonder what they're for in this floating building. This one is really unusual. The buildings seem to be some kind of floating fish kind of creature. This one's got some trees again coming off the top, and also some graffiti on the buildings. And then at the bottom, the buildings are upside down, and they've got some kind of triangular roofs type things coming off them at the bottom as well. So remember, when you are cutting out your building pictures, you can put them any way you want. You don't need to put them the normal way up. This one's really pretty. I like this one. There's a kind of upside down stained glass window underneath the houses, which have got some trees on them as well, and then some more triangles. So we're seeing lots of trees and lots of triangles coming off the sides of these buildings. Again, we've got a tree and some triangles, and also this big circle in the middle, which is quite different. I'm not really sure what it is. I wonder if it might be the dome of a cathedral or a museum or something like that that is painted, and you look up at the dome. But you can be really creative with this kind of thing and choose anything that you think looks interesting. And finally, this building has got stone steps at the bottom of it, and then it's got a tree coming off the top, but it doesn't look like a photograph of a tree like the ones we've seen before. It looks more like a tree that has been made with bits of paper, and there are birds sitting on the tree as well.
Okay, so I've got my background all ready. So now I'm going to start looking for houses in my newspapers and magazines. Luckily there are lots of adverts all about houses, so I'm going to start cutting them out. So what I've done is cut out everything I can find from the newspapers and magazines and cards that I think I might like to use in my foreground. So I cut out as many houses or bits of houses as I could find, and also some plants that I liked, because I know that Matthias Jung often uses bits of trees in his pieces of art as well. I'm not going to start thinking about how I'm going to put it together yet. I might use some of these, I might not. I'm just going to leave it as it is for today.